This presentation is an ethical case study of the Nestle Corporation. For more information related to the issues discussed, please refer to the references at the end of the presentation. Nestle has been a world leader in providing food products for over 150 years. It has well over 400 factories across almost 200 countries and employs over 300,000 people. In Europe, it is considered one of the best employers. Conversely, throughout the world, it is one of the most hated companies. Nestle was founded in 1867 by Henry Nestle. He derived an infant formula to help babies who couldn't be breastfed. It was made up of flour and milk. Later, in 1905, the Nestle company merged with the Anglo-Swiss Condensed Milk Company, which was famous for its milk and Swiss chocolate recipes. Together, they formed the Nestle Group. Today, the Nestle Group has over 8,000 brands. It's also entering the wholesome foods market to take advantage of potential there. It has looked for new markets because of stagnant and slumping markets in Europe, Germany, and France. It also has taken advantage of opening markets in developing countries throughout the world. Despite some ups and downs in the markets, Nestle has grown 250% since about 2000. One of the major ways it has done this is through brand acquisitions and growing its brand portfolio. Nestle's strategy, as stated on its website, is our objective is to be the leader in nutrition, health, and wellness and industry reference for financial performance trusted by stakeholders. Nestle wants to do this through supporting healthier lifestyles in nutrition, health, and wellness, using research and development to innovate and renovate the company's food and beverage portfolio, and also to look at exploration in nutritional therapies and skincare markets. While Nestle Corporation has experienced a great deal of success, since 1977 it has also struggled with some ethical issues, including child labor, unethical promotion, manipulating uneducated mothers, pollution, price fixing, and mislabeling. In this presentation, we're going to focus on three of those. One involves its baby formula product, its bottled water products, and the chemical melamine. Since 1977, the Nestle company has been struggling with issues related to its infant formula. It has sold it throughout the world and has major markets in developed countries. The chief issue has to do with water in developing countries. It's contaminated, and when mothers mix contaminated water with the formula, they serve contaminated food to their children, which makes them sick. Even if they do understand the need to sterilize the water, often they aren't able to. They don't have fuel in order to start a fire and boil it prior to mixing. Another thing that mothers tend to do in these nations is try to stretch the food out, the formula out, and mix it in smaller proportions. When doing that, it's too weak and doesn't provide the nutrients and nutrition the children need. Save the Children is quoted as saying, "Breastfeeding is unparalleled in providing the ideal food for infants. The optimal way to feed a baby is exclusively breastfeeding for the first 6 months, followed by breastfeeding combined with complementary foods until the child is 2 years old." Some of the advantages of breastfeeding are it provides the nutrients and antibodies that children need or infants need in their formative years. It's sterile, they don't have to deal with contaminated water. It promotes bonding between the mother and child. And also it helps the mothers out by delaying fertility so they don't get pregnant again before they're ready. After years of struggling with issues, there was a period of time that the detractors of Nestle seemed to quiet down somewhat. Then in 2000, Nestle embarked on a venture to acquire water rights in order to sell water. This was an effort to create a commodity out of water and increase its profits for its stakeholders. They also used it in developing countries where there were contaminated water issues. The presentation was that if people used clean water, then they could avoid the contaminants and sick children that would come from using contaminated water with their formula. CEO Peter Brabeck was quoted as saying, "Access to water should not be a public right." This came from Nestle's acquisition or purchase of aquifers of water that people used in countries. When they started doing that, they began pumping the water out and it became less available for the people to use it. There were many protests and upset people, understandably, because they couldn't get access to the water they needed. They had to buy what had been free for them in the past. Around 2008, a new issue arose regarding the compound melamine. Melamine is used in making plastic. In some conditions, that plastic or the compound can be toxic, especially to infants. In Taiwan, it was found in some types of Nestle's milk powders that were produced in China. In fact, it was found in 6 products. 860 babies were hospitalized because of the melamine in the milk products, and 6 of the children died from kidney damage. When we look at the ethical considerations of what Nestle is doing, the company itself has taken mostly a utilitarian approach. It sees that women in the third world need alternatives to breastfeeding. It also says that its formula is better than what some of the mothers can prepare themselves in their own environments. And also that far more people benefit from it providing formula and other products than those that suffer. Further examination of Nestle's actions through Kant's categorical imperative brings us to one major question. Is what Nestle doing a standard that we want other companies to follow? And from that, we come up with another few questions to further clarify. Should a corporation sell products into a situation where they know they will not be used properly, to the detriment of many innocent victims? In this case, the mothers and the children who use the baby formula. Should a corporation take a controlling interest in basic human rights? Does Nestle have the right to purchase water rights and prevent those who live in an area from accessing what should be a basic human right, water? And lastly, does a corporation have a responsibility for the conduct and actions of its subsidiaries, affiliates, and supply chain? In China, where the formula with the melamine in it was produced, does Nestle have any responsibility with that to make sure that those things don't happen, or to take responsibility when they unfortunately do? Principle-based ethics lets us look at Nestle through a few different lenses. We can look at principles, things that should be universally applicable, promises, obligations, deserved recompense when something doesn't go right, and then basic rights and duties of the company. This could lead us to a question: do the actions contribute to or obstruct a happy and meaningful human life, something that each of us should be entitled to? It also considers that people are not means to an end, but they are in essence ends of themselves. They are entitled to have their rights protected, and when a person is disadvantaged, he or she should not be exploited to their detriment. People also have a right to make a free and autonomous choice. Little children, or again, mothers in a disadvantaged situation, do not have complete freedom to make that choice, or to make choices. While Nestle can justify its actions because of its corporate responsibility to sell and make profits for its shareholders, ethical considerations also are extremely important. In reviewing these, come up with 3 different items of consideration for businesses and corporations. One is corporations and businesses have an ethical responsibility because of their power. They have a lot more money than most individuals have, and therefore they have an obligation to not misuse the power that gives them. And while corporations do not of themselves have feelings, they are made up of humans that do, and those humans that lead corporations have an ethical responsibility to look out for their stakeholders and other constituents and customers. Lastly, ethics say that corporations and businesses should not be separated from the human element they are made up of. As stated previously, corporations don't have feelings, but the people in them do, and have an obligation to remember that they are part of the human race to which they have an ethical responsibility to look out for. Thank you for listening to this presentation. In the next slide, you'll see references that you can do further research to find out about the topics discussed today. Thank you.